What would you do if your father's kindness suddenly turned your world inside out? For this family, a single wedding invitation changed the course of every conversation, and every life. In a cozy house on the edge of a small town, Mark Semyonovich's life drifted by calmly, almost boringly. He was a man of his word, the eternal advisor to neighbors, an unshakable authority to his children and grandchildren. Even his old shepherd, Gray, had stopped barking at respected guests. But that March day changed everything. Mark rose at 5, as always, cooked oatmeal, turned off the radio so as not to wake his neighbor Lita, and then, like a bolt of lightning. Today is the day. No one in the family or among the neighbors had a clue what he was planning. But Mark was calm. He invited his daughter, Valentina, for tea, nothing unusual, but his eyes shone as if he'd won the lottery. "Dad, what's going on?" Valentina asked, tired after a night shift as a nurse. "Valia, you always said family should stick together. So I've decided to get married." Silence filled the kitchen, as if all the air had shrunk to the size of a teaspoon. Valentina laughed, nervously, like when someone tickled her foot as a child. "Dad, who are you going to marry?" "There's no one left in the village except Lita and Aunt Galia." "You." The sound of the cup hitting the table was louder than a siren. Valentina didn't believe what she'd heard at first. Scenes from cheap talk shows flashed through her mind, but her own life never seemed like material for a headline. "You've lost your mind," she whispered, gripping her spoon so tightly her knuckles turned white. "It's all by the book. Otherwise they won't give you a housing subsidy, and you and your son have been living here for 3 years already. It'll be a formality." "No one needs to know," Mark said, his voice deadly serious. Valentina was trapped by circumstances, a student's son, debts, one cramped room. For Mark, this was an act of protection. He always made the decisions himself. But the first injustice was already at the door. When the relatives found out about the bizarre marriage, there was no friendship or kinship left. Valentina's phone began to ring off the hook. The family group chat exploded with curses and threats. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how it unfolds. How much backlash can one family handle before it breaks? The wedding wasn't even over, and the storm had only begun. The ceremony was modest. Neighbor Lita acted as the witness, and the paperwork was signed in a rush, as if it were a non-aggression pact, not a wedding. In the photos, just two, a gray-haired man and a woman with extinguished eyes. "Congratulations, newlyweds," Lita joked, offering pickles instead of a wedding cake. That evening, the first call came. Valentina's brother, Arkady, wanted her on the phone. "You've disgraced the whole family. You're selling out for some benefits?" "I'm doing this for my son," Valentina replied quietly, feeling her anger harden into resentment. Mark was branded a traitor, a madman, almost a criminal. At the store, they stopped giving him bread on credit, neighbors avoided him, former friends gossiped at the entrance. Then the social worker, a young woman with nail polish the color of scandal, suddenly declared, "We'll be investigating. This is a sham marriage, isn't it? That's not allowed." What once seemed a formality suddenly became a trap. Valentina's inner monologue now sounded like a war report. "If I give up, my son will be out on the street. If I stay, no one will speak to me. Where's the line between love and self-destruction?" Mark just waved her off. "Don't listen to what people say. Let them try living a day in your shoes." But rumors weren't the only trouble gathering over their heads. There was a knock at the door, officials in uniform. "Mark Semyonovich? You're being summoned to court. This is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for, it's all here." Stay tuned to see how the hero stands their ground. Who's guilty, those who bend the rules, or those who punish without mercy? The courtroom turned into a battlefield, and the verdict would tear the family apart. The courtroom reeked of fear and burnt office coffee. Do you admit that your daughter is now your wife? The judge asked, not looking up from the papers. On paper, yes. In life, she's my daughter, nothing more, Mark answered wearily. Valentina wouldn't look at her brother, sitting stone-faced in the audience. My son and I never stole, never cheated, never lied. We just wanted a roof over our heads. And did you consider the moral harm to your family, neighbors, society? The opposing lawyer chided. I thought about how my mother raised 2 children alone while you were philosophizing, Valentina shot back, lifting her head for the first time. The judge sighed. He was clearly tired of endless paperwork and the absurdities of the law. You may face administrative penalties, possibly even eviction. For the first time, Mark broke down, not before the law, but before life itself. All this for her, and now she might lose everything because of me. Was it worth it? Outside, they were met by cameras, journalists, even Lita bustling with a bag of cookies. Well, at least you'll be on TV now. But the biggest secret is still unknown. Don't miss the next chapter. One detail will change the family's fate. How far will loyalty go before it cracks? With every secret exposed, betrayal comes not from strangers, but from those you trust most. The house that once smelled of fried onions and coffee now reeked of court summons and sleepless nights. Valentina was worn out. She nearly lost her job. Her son had to transfer schools. Mom's married to Grandpa became the running joke of half the town. One morning, Mark's ex-wife, Galina, showed up on the doorstep. I warned you, your kindness would come back to haunt you, she said with a sneer. You could have helped just once, and we wouldn't have been pushed to this, Mark replied tiredly. A family council turned into open warfare. You've ruined our name. And where were you when your daughter worked nights just to feed her son? Valentina listened, teeth clenched, and suddenly realized, no one had ever asked what it was like for her to live under this guillotine of gossip and threats. While the adults sparred, Valentina's son wrote a letter to the social services. Please leave my mom and grandpa alone. We're a family, even if you don't like it. But the letter became a trigger. It was posted online, and a new storm broke out. Now, everyone wanted to either save the family, or finish them off. Will this family become stronger, or fall apart for good? The most important part is still to come. When the world turns against you, who do you become? The line between survival and betrayal blurs, and one final secret is about to explode. Now there were just 3, Mark, Valentina, and her son, against the whole town and their own conscience. Valentina made a desperate move. She recorded a video message, no makeup, no script. Just the truth, raw and unfiltered. I am my father's daughter. I am a mother. I'm not a traitor. We've done nothing shameful except fight for a roof over our heads. Let anyone who's never bent the rules for family cast the first stone. The video went viral. Some sympathized, some hated. Letters of support poured in, so did anonymous threats. Mark fell ill. For the first time, he felt not just fear but relief. Maybe if I'm gone, Valia can finally breathe again. But Valentina didn't give up. Dad, even if everyone turns their back, I won't leave you. Never. Better a cursed family than strangers in your own home. And just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, a social worker knocked on their door. We've reviewed your case. The truth is finally coming out. But what will it lead to? Don't miss the finale. What happens when the system finally looks you in the eye? For one family, a single visit threatens to rewrite everything they thought they'd saved. The social worker, a tall woman in strict glasses, entered their home with a stack of papers, like a judge holding court. "Before we continue, I want to hear everything, from the beginning," she said quietly, surveying exhausted Mark and Valentina. For the first time, Valentina didn't cry. There were no tears, no strength left. She told how she'd been left alone, how her father saved her, how the town turned into a tribunal. Mark kept his composure, but inside he battled himself. "You thought protection was just signing a piece of paper?" "No, protection is living with shame for others' sake." "Are you ready for that?" The woman nodded, jotting notes, pausing only to clarify. "And did you realize this marriage would hurt your family?" "Yes. But who would have helped us if we'd done nothing?" Valentina snapped. "That's enough." The inspection took an hour. She photographed wallpaper, the old sofa, a broken kettle. Her face betrayed no pity, no contempt, just fatigue. At the door, she paused. "I'll file a report. You may get separate housing. But the regional authorities are now interested. Expect a commission." Mark chuckled bitterly. "Imagine, now we're not just the talk of the store, but the whole region." Valentina's son hugged her. "It'll be okay, Mom." But that evening an email arrived. "Your case is being considered for a TV segment. Please comment. Sometimes rescue is just another test." Stay tuned to see how publicity becomes a new ordeal. Would you trade your privacy for survival? The world is about to watch their pain, and one unexpected guest has a score to settle. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Talk shows wanted Valentina, promising support, but really craving a sensation. "We'll tell your truth to the whole country," the producer assured her, his voice as slippery as a bar of soap. Mark was firmly against it. "We're not a circus act. We're not here for anyone's entertainment." But Valentina hesitated. Money was almost gone, debts mounting, her son threatened with another school transfer. "Dad, maybe this is our way out?" "The price is too high." Then Arkady, Valentina's brother who'd cursed her first, showed up at the door. He looked older, quieter than before. "Valia, I'm sorry. I didn't know how hard things were. When my wife and I found out, it nearly destroyed us. I was a fool." Valentina wanted to hug him, but couldn't. Old hurts had set, like bones mended the wrong way. Arkady brought his wife, a lawyer. "We'll help. The courts and the media don't last forever. The main thing is to stick together." Mark listened, thinking. When you're 70, it's easier to forgive your son than to see your daughter suffer for your sake. Journalists staked out the entrance, neighbors threatened with police. But for the first time in months, someone in the family stood with Mark and Valentina. "We have nothing to hide anymore," Valentina said. "If people want the truth, let them hear it all." The next day, the TV segment aired, and the phone rang again, this time, with offers of help. Can the family survive when everything is finally out in the open? The finale awaits, where past and present collide face to face. Is forgiveness possible when the world has already judged you? In the final reckoning, family ties are tested by the fire of truth. That evening, the three of them sat at the kitchen table, like old times. "You don't hold a grudge?" Mark asked his daughter, almost afraid to hear the answer. "I've seen enough evil for a lifetime." "For you, all I have left is gratitude," Valentina replied, pouring tea with a trembling hand. Neighbors peeked through the windows, someone secretly filmed on their phone. The family was now a legend, a subject of gossip and imitation. Valentina's son brought in a letter. "Mom, this is for you. The commission has decided to grant you a separate apartment." At first, no one believed it. Then, all three laughed, an anxious, desperate laughter from people whom no word could hurt anymore. Mark said softly, "At 70, you can start over, if you have someone to do it for." For the first time in years, Valentina didn't see herself as a victim, but as someone who had survived it all. "I'd choose this path again," she whispered. The family went off to their own rooms, but for the first time in years, the house was filled not with fear, but with a light sense of hope for the future. But even if it feels like the story's over, life always finds a way to surprise you. That's another chapter for another time. When the dust settles, what's left of a family that the world tried to break? Sometimes, the most powerful changes happen in silence, right after the storm. Spring finally came to the town. The ice melted from the sidewalks, the cherry trees in the yards bloomed more wildly than usual, as if to prove that something new always comes after winter. Mark Semyonovich stood by the window of his new apartment, a small but peaceful place, looking out on the very street where everyone once knew his name. On the wall hung two photos, one old family picture with a little Valentina, and one recent, a trio around the kitchen table, cheap teacups, tired but genuine smiles. He'd stopped justifying himself. He didn't replay what he should have done, didn't wait for a phone call to change everything. Instead, he lived, watered a houseplant, crumbled bread for the pigeons, fixed a toy for his grandson, who now visited often after school. Valentina worked at the hospital, but no longer around the clock. She had a normal shift now. When she struggled, she'd remember that kitchen moment, when her father, the man who always saved everyone but himself, finally asked for her forgiveness. She understood then, strength isn't about never crying, but being willing to be weak in front of the people you love. Arkady called less often, but didn't judge, didn't blame. The family talked less about the past, more about her son's schoolwork, or what flowers to plant in the yard. The town hadn't forgotten the scandal. Some saw them as those people from TV, some supported them, some despised them. But now, neither Mark nor Valentina cared. One evening, as the three sat on the bench outside their building, the same social worker passed by, still tired, still in her strict suit, but with new warmth in her eyes. "You're stronger than you think," she said with a smile. "Sometimes the law just can't keep up with life." Mark looked at his daughter and grandson. He'd spent years fearing mistakes, yet made them, just like anyone else. But now, he was no longer ashamed of his failures. "If I had the chance to do it all again," he started. "You'd do it just the same," Valentina interrupted. "Just without waiting for anyone else to understand or support you. The main thing is, we're here. Together." Her son stood, hugged them both. In that moment, there was no scandal, no judgment, no outsider's stare. There was just an evening, filled with ordinary happiness, without forms, approvals, or fake smiles. And in that quiet, Mark finally realized, sometimes, happiness is just being alive and needed, no matter what. For the first time in years, he wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Because that day belonged to them, and only them. But sometimes life comes full circle. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Stay with us. Every family keeps its deepest secret until the time is right.